although there's no such thing as work-life balance, nor do I believe there's work-life integration.
Okay.
We do have glass balls and plastic balls that we're handed in life. When a glass breaks, it shatters into pieces. You can never piece it back together the way that it was, because then those shards are actually going to cut you and you will absolutely bleed when that happens. But plastic balls will bounce back as you throw them down. So how I now live my life when it comes to work and when it actually comes to glass, it's very simple. There'll be moments in my life where work is a glass ball, because there's something critical that needs to happen, and I can't allow that to fall. But I have an amazing ecosystem around me that will fall in the gap and actually close stuff out for me and help me with my children at home, so I can deal with my work glass balls. And then sometimes your children are glass balls and you can't allow them to drop. So be mindful of the season you are in your personal life and your work life, so that you know what is plastic that can bounce back and nothing gets damaged or hurt today if I let it bounce. What's glass that I actually can't allow to break today? Trying to show people whose boss speaks to your own personal insecurities. No, you don't have to announce that I am an executive.
Yes.
People know.
Okay.
By virtue of the job that you have, they know. I don't believe in making proclamations around, like who I am or what it is that I'm doing. I believe in servant leadership.
Lovely.
Leadership can be a calling, right? Like it can genuinely be a calling. And when you're a servant, you serve.
Sure.
Right? Which means, I gave the illustration of leading from the front, and when the hits come, they must come at me. But equally, sometimes you need to lead from the back.
Sure.
Because you want your people to shine. I always want my people to look good.
Hello, I am Dr. Mandaj Flaro, and on this week's episode of the SuperLead Podcast series, we are joined by one of Africa's leading voices in technology, governance, and transformation, Nomonde Whitingjovu. She is the CIO for Group Compliance at Absa and a multi-award-winning executive. Nomonde doesn't shy away from difficult conversations, especially the ones people often avoid having with women in leadership. And in this episode, she speaks candidly about navigating those unspoken dynamics while driving major technology turnarounds. Nomonde, welcome to SuperLead Podcast.
Thank you.
So we've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yes, we have.
And we have had, we've tried before also.
We have.
And we're back here in studio.
Tried. Tell the truth. What happened?
We did the interview.
Yes,
and then Chami lost the clip. And then Mpo had to invite you
So
back.
round two.
2.
Ladies and gentlemen, you were not meant to hear the first one, it seems, huh? So.
Yes, because today we're talking big things that are hardly ever spoken about. So let's start at where we normally start, which is just tell me about Nomonde from as early as we possibly can. But maybe before we do that, tell me about your surname first.
Okay, you're going to ask the surname question on air. All right.
This is round 2, so we can do anything.
You know, Manda, I wish I had a real answer for you. I've never asked my dad, but this is the answer I give to people when they ask me this, because it's normally late. So let me start by saying, no, I'm not adopted.
Okay.
My parents are not white at all. I'm not Xhosa. Well, I am closer. Sorry, let me fix that, because that comes with the answer I must give. Huh? What I was going to say was, no, I'm also not married to a white man, because that also comes in like as a question, right? So the answer I give to people is that I'm closer. Usually that moves stuff away, because like, oh yes, makes sense, because you guys, silver, like then it goes away. Sometimes it doesn't go away. Then I'll say, you know what, I'm going to ask my dad how we got our surname, but this is my assumption.
Good.
Back in the day when apartheid was still very much alive, someone in my lineage probably looked colored or white. And then they changed their surname from Hlope to White to try and... This is the version I give. It is not true. My dad, when he sees this, will not be happy about this version. I just have never asked him the question, simply because, you know, when you're born with a surname, it's yours. You don't think there's anything weird about it. So you just accept it for what it is. So I've never questioned why my surname is White.
Can we get your dad on the line?
Manfane, are you serious? I don't know. I will ask him for real, but I don't want to do it on him. But I'll ask him, and then the next time I see you, I'll have an answer for you.
Very good. So tell me about you, growing up.
Growing up, so I'm an introvert. No one believes me when I say this, but I was a shy kid, soft-spoken. My parents made a decision, you know, when they started opening up schools to black kids, like many, many moons ago. My dad made a decision that I'm going to go to a Model C school, and he was clear that that I will know the Queen's language. I will speak English and speak well, and that I would be articulate. So I was raised by a man who had a vision for my life, for my future, of how he wanted my life to pan out, to be able to occupy space wherever I was, you know, to be heard. And I think when your parents can see that, Shem, you're a timid, shy child, they actually pour into you, you know, and speak life into you. Sure. And I think my mom, my dad, also my grandparents always spoke life into us, right? Like with the view of saying you can be absolutely anything you want to do and be. There was never a limitation or being boxed into this is what girls do and this is actually what boys do. That's not anything I was raised with. And then of course, my dad was a phenomenal salesperson. So my dad can sell water to a well. I think that's probably the right way to actually put it. So I used to see how he moves. He's a very charming man as well. My mom enters a space and you can feel her presence. Sure. You know, like she has a big personality, gravitas. My sister's the same. Both of them have very big, beautiful personalities. You'll never get bored. Like when they're in an ecosystem, I think their laughter fills the room because it comes from like deep inside. It's loud and it's beautiful. When they enter spaces, a room comes alive just because of the energy that they actually bring into a space in an ecosystem. So I have this mom who's very much boisterous and alive. My dad, who's extremely charming, but a very calm man, you know, not a loud man, likes calmness around him. I think I have a lot of my dad's personality in me. But over and above that, I think when you have girl children and you're a man, you know how men move, whatever that means. Right? So my dad was always very intentional in taking me to places. I think now that I look back, he had a lot of foresight for back in the day. So I went to Craig Hall Primary School. So Hyde Park is like really close to Craig Hall. So my dad would take me to lunches over there. And he, you know, like in primary school, as you get older, he'd always say, you know, one day, Nomonde, like you'll know boys, don't know them yet, but I don't want you to think that going on a date is a new thing or it's a novelty. It is not. Sure. So I always want you to have life experience. So it's not introduced to you by people who are trying to impress you. Sure. Because on your own, I want you to be impressive. Excellent. Right? So that's the languaging that I got. And I think my dad, I was not allowed to speak Setswana or Xhosa when I was small. Because when you don't have black kids there weren't any black kids in those schools yet. Sure. So if you're the only one, I think it was his way of trying to force me to learn English quickly so that I wouldn't struggle. I mean, I wish it wasn't the case that way because children learn language quite quickly, right? You want to be articulate in multiple languages. And I think the detriment of now the world that we live in, because now our kids go to private schools and you want them to be articulate. But I think the key is balance. I think it's so important to know your own language and not just English, because the languages of the world are equally, important. I was actually my daughter is doing French. She's 10. I was quite impressed that I can't help with homework though. That's a problem, right? Because I don't know French. But language is such a beautiful thing. It connects people and it brings us all together. So Nomonde, I guess I've given you one version of events, but Nomonde grew up in Soweto, between Mfolo, Zone 1, Middlelands, and Dobsonville, right? My mom was studying, so I was in between my grandparents' houses. I had a fun childhood. Sure. I grew up with my cousins in the house. love was a constant that was always in my life. Our lives weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I've never doubted how much I was loved, how much I was valued by my family, and I've never doubted how supported I have always been in all aspects of my life. My folks were strict though, like extremely, extremely strict. There's things I couldn't do. My mom, as much as she was boisterous, I think everyone was scared of her.
Sure.
You know, there was an incident where my friends were over at the house. We were having a great time. I think we were in high school. She opens the door and like it's loud. She's like, "Dumelang, la tlanya," which means, "Are you crazy?" Like you're causing ruckus like in my house, and everybody scattered because everyone was, you know. But I think that fear of God that she's instilled in me has helped me to grow up into a very disciplined human being who has a very high value set. And I grew up with the fundamental belief of to whom much is given, much is required.
Excellent.
My home and how I grew up was always a space where anyone was welcome. People would come in there all the time. From Rustem and from Ziras and you're looking for work, you would live in my grandmother's house. So that's the type of family I grew up in. And that's probably why I'm an introvert. I was always around people. So having my own space like
was the thing
matters,
you-
yes.
yeah.
That I wanted a lot. So yeah, that's just a small synopsis about me.
Lovely, lovely. And then you accelerated through to university. You didn't study like computer
I
science or
did
anything
not.
like that.
You are correct. I
Tell me
didn't.
more.
I studied politics and law. But I've never practiced a day in my life. I studied politics and law, and of course I've done expedient courses post that. I did my MBA at a lovely institution.
Of course, this is Gibbs Business School,
Yes,
ladies and
it
gentlemen.
is. But I'm also a Vitsi, so my undergrad
Yes.
was done at Wits. But I've done expedient courses after that, like which are technology related. So I can't fix the computer if you put it in front of me. My coding is whack. It's not great. So it's not like don't make me write code. However, this is all I know because this is where I grew up. So I started in Nedbank. So back in the day, Nedbank used to hire students
Yes.
from everywhere, part-time, right? You know, like how Exclusive Books is also great like that. They hire students.
Yeah.
So in trying to make like extra money for me and my sister, like to buy stuff so, I didn't have to trouble my parents for clothes, for this, for that, I kind of like spoke my mom into letting me buy a car. So my entire salary, which was nothing,
Yes.
went into that car.
Sure.
And they paid for my insurance.
Lovely.
So how my journey started was through Nedbank, and then I am ashamed to say I failed the subject, which my parents hadn't budgeted for me to fail. But by God's grace, this car that I had begged for, I was taking it to service, so I was getting picked up, and there was a gentleman in the car, Clyde Pillay, who worked at a company called UCS Solutions, and they were hiring, right? So I got a 1-month contract in a SAP consultancy firm. Now, when you're young, you quit a job that pays you nothing, but it's stable. And I took a gamble, because it paid me more.
For just the 1 month.
Yeah, it was 8,000 rand. I gotta get faith. I would take 8,000 Manda over 2,000. It sounded like a lot of money then, and it was, right?
Yeah, it's
so I was
4x,
like,
I
okay,
guess.
I can figure this out, because Wits at the time it said no, you must come back full time to do that subject. So I was negotiating and begging to please complete that subject through UNISA. Eventually, like I said, my dad was in sales. He could sell water to a well. I was able to get approval to do that one subject through UNISA. So I figured that let me save money. At least I can, cover, in case Wits doesn't allow me to do this through UNISA, let me save up enough to go do this course. Because my folks were like, that's on you, right? So you will figure it out, which I appreciate that lesson of life, that if you don't stick to what you have committed to, then you must see it through. So that's how I got into technology, actually. And it was resetting passwords. So, when you come back from December holidays and you forgot your password.
Yeah. I don't even need to go to December holiday. I just need 2 days.
Well, that's how I started.
Yeah.
Genuine, that's how I started. And then after 6 months, when you're young, right, you're kicking yourself because now your friends are doing their articles. You're working. I'm still in a call center. I was in one, now I'm in a call center. And I think I was, and it's so wrong to land-based God, right? But I'm Christian. I'm very deeply spiritual. And I was fasting also in that season. And I was mad at myself. And I kept applying for jobs, anything but a call center job. I could have been an executive headhunter. I did go to a recruitment agency.
Okay.
Made it to the last round and I didn't get the job. But when God's purpose for your life is far bigger than whatever you could have ever imagined, that's what he does. Like, he will show you that opportunities are there, they exist, this is actually possible, but this is not what I want for you. So in this organization is where my opportunities actually morphed into existence. I was then, Mary, who was my boss at the time, had asked me to go get Jane Canny, who was the MD of the business, to sign something. So now I'm with Jane, she's talking to me around, okay, so what do you do? I explained, I study politics and law. But there was a session with HR that we had, and I asked, like, if anyone who studied law can work in technology, and they said no. So I relayed this to her, and she's like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. You can do anything you want to be. So tell me, like, what job would interest you, like, if you stayed here? And remember, I'm young, so I'm impressionable. And the service delivery managers drove really nice cars. So I said a service delivery manager. Of course. Like, based on that, I just assumed I would be able to afford a nice car, and I had a huge crush on an Audi back then. I still love Audi as a brand, by the way. Okay. So that's the job I said, right? Yeah. So she's like, she's very reflective, and she was looking for an executive assistant. From own personal experience, I never hire someone who has no experience being an executive assistant. If you're an executive, you will cry blood because you will cry. Just don't do it. Yeah. I've had my own experience, and I think she was wise enough not to do that with me. Okay, good. She then created a role. Like I said, I was fasting during the time. I was doing the Daniel fast. A role was created as a junior service delivery manager role, and she partnered me with Alice Marks, who was an executive in the business, because you had to dot your I's, cross your T's with Alice. It was the quickest way to learn. And I'm really, really grateful for those early lessons. But it was difficult because when you're transitioning from working in a call center, now you are a manager, whether junior or not, the people who are giving you instructions, who are engineers, developers, now you are working with clients and you have to engage them around what your client needs are. I was young, I was impressionable, I was a tiny kid. Some of the conversations would exclude you from it, like because people would speak in Afrikaans. I cried a lot in those bathrooms of UCS Solutions. But I just refused for people to see me crying, like, outward. What I appreciate about Alice is that she refused to accept the bullying. And she set people straight on my behalf when she could see what was happening. And she was like, well, she asked you for this, why haven't you given it to her? So I think because now it's like you have like this older, bigger sister who's like, they stopped like messing with me in that way. And when I could build genuine, authentic relationships and finding my footing, I think it helped a lot in terms of people understanding I'm not here to threaten anybody's anything over here. I just want to do my job. And because I was eager to learn and I didn't want to take that opportunity for granted, I'd go to work on weekends because something that would take someone probably 30 minutes to do, in the beginning was taking me 4-6 hours because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the languaging of technology when you actually have to like write client reports, when you actually are given like a business case and this actually needs to be, I didn't understand any of that languaging. I'm grateful for the early lessons and the people who used to stay behind, other executives like Clyde himself, who was a service delivery manager at UCS, and Linnell Harris, who'd teach me. They didn't have to, but they did that. So I've always had grace around me and people who've poured into me, like I said. So that's why even like some of my leadership principles, core to it, is that you always want to send the letter down. I will never say no to anyone. Because the question that you want to ask me or the time that you require maybe tied into your destiny journey, whatever that destiny journey might be between you and God. Of course, now as you get older, it comes with boundaries of how you then manage your time, because all of us are time poor. So I'm now trying to envision different ways of how, to ensure I'm accessible and I can still like serve in that regard. So my early journey from working, my journey in technology started that way. It started at UCS Solutions. And after, because God is faithful and he's good and kind, I in that job, actually eventually became like a service delivery manager at the junior. It dropped. But I did. I got my Audi. I did. It was a wise decision. But I also won an award there. So they used to, is it like your top performers, like top 10 top performers, and you would go away like on an incentive trip, right, with the executives of business. Lovely. That was my lesson about managing upwards and the importance of it. So God has always placed me in seasons to actually teach, and if you've got a teachable spirit, you will actually take those lessons. And I think my love for safaris probably started there. Then I checked the price of these places, and then I'm like, I have a lot of work to do to actually get to a place of being able to afford the kind of life that I want to curate for myself and when I have children one day. So I actually need to buckle down and actually work as hard as I can and not waste opportunities that people have given me. I've then obviously had the opportunity of working for amazing organizations. I've worked for British American Tobacco, learned a lot about the FMCG business, but I'm a banker. I've been in financial services for a very long time. And I love financial services. It's been an industry that has given me phenomenal opportunities. I've met phenomenal leaders. And a big part of who I am as a leader, as a human being, is as a result of the phenomenal opportunities that financial services has offered me.
Excellent. Now, you have led in many roles in different industries. I'm curious, what are those 3 or 4 Nomonde's leadership principles that guide you?
So, I'm hard on delivery, but I'm soft on people.
Lovely. Just say that a bit more.
Okay, explain.
What that looks like.
I expect results. So I have an expectation that, if we've given a commitment around something that we're going to do, we will do it.
Okay.
It is going to be done, right?
Okay.
And there's timelines around commitments that we've made. We will commit to what we've committed to. And we won't just do it for the sake of doing it.
Sure.
We want to land something well and with excellence in terms of how we actually get it done. The aspect that I'm soft on people in that I care about your humanity. I do lead, I'd like to think, but then again, you'd have to ask people who've worked for me, because I could say it and then people are like, no, you know what I mean? And as much as I believe in spirited conversations because they matter, that's how you thrash out how you're going to get to the best available answer for this thing. Excellent. You actually need to be able to have hard conversations to do that. I'm also a leader who doesn't want to be the smartest person in the room. If I am, I'm in the wrong room.
Sure.
So I know things that I'm good at and I know things that I'm not good at. I'm not afraid to augment my team with people who are excellent at the things that I am weak in. Because that's how you actually are able to then build strong and high-performing teams. Because you yourself are aware of your own limitations and what you need to do to ensure that those limitations are actually closed out. But when you hire smart people, let them be smart.
Right.
Don't then just want to be the only voice that speaks. I never want to just hear my voice when I'm speaking in the room. Specifically if there's a hard, audacious issue that we actually need to get through. All ideas must actually come to the table. No idea is a bad idea. So I'm a leader who respects people's voices.
Excellent.
I want to hear your voice. I lead from the front when it's required. Usually if there's bad things coming, they must hit me first and not you.
Not the team.
No, it needs to hit me first and not you. So I'll give you cover. If you are wrong, however, tell me. Don't hit me by surprise when I'm in a board meeting and something that's happening, you didn't tell me. If you do that, I may not take you out in the session because I don't believe in that. But behind closed doors when we're done, things are going to pop off. Actually, we're going to have a really, really spirited conversation in that regard. So I believe in always being truthful around the things that are going well as the things that are going wrong. I will tell you, right? So that we are actually able to try and pivot from any bad situation so we can actually move on the right direction after we've actually figured out that, okay, this direction was wrong. So I want to hear people's voices. I don't just want to hear my own. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
And I find sometimes, it sounds right, but some people, like to be the big boss. And when there's like smart people in the room, sometimes they get a bit insecure or they try to show them who's boss. How do you avoid that?
Trying to show people who's boss speaks to your own personal insecurities.
I see.
No, you don't have to announce that I am an executive.
Yes.
People know. Okay. By virtue of the job that you have, they know. I don't believe in making proclamations around, like who I am or what it is that I'm doing. I believe in servant leadership.
Lovely.
Leadership can be a calling, right? Like it can genuinely be a calling. And when you're a servant, you serve.
Sure.
Right? Which means, I gave the illustration of leading from the front, and when the hits come, they must come at me. But equally, sometimes you need to lead from the back.
Sure.
Because you want your people to shine. I always want my people to look good.
Lovely.
So what I do sometimes is, if there's an important email that needs to go out, yes, the escalation may have come to me. But if they're working on the issue, they'll send me the email, I'll panel beat it into shape, depending on who the audience is. If it's executives, I'll panel beat it on their behalf to sound like executive speak.
Okay.
But they will send it.
Oh, very good.
So
Okay.
I'm an editor in the background if I need to be for
Okay.
my team. But I also have tough and hard conversations if and when required. I don't aspire for limelight, Manda. It's never been something that I'm chasing. I've never needed to actually do that. God speaks for me. And there's a prayer that I pray every day before I actually leave the house. And it's a very simple one, right? It's for God to please order my steps and speak through me in everything that I do.
Sure.
I would like to believe that I am a representative of who God has called me to be.
Sure.
So if I walk into a space and I want people to see me from a place of arrogance, then I am not operating from how God expects me to actually operate, which is with grace, which is with kindness, which is with respect for everybody.
Sure.
And when I say everybody, it's the person who's cleaning the space, person who's making you coffee or tea. Respect you grant because everyone deserves it, not because people have to earn it. You might lose respect from people depending on how you behave. So you always start at 100 with me, depending on how you show up.
Hopefully it doesn't deplete too quickly.
Yes, hopefully it doesn't deplete too quickly, but you always start at 100.
Okay.
And then it actually comes, because I was raised like that, with also the understanding, Manda, that I am a product of generations of domestic workers. You know how it was in apartheid. So when someone is making tea, there's no I'm going to be disrespectful. That could be my grandmother.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here because someone had to work to make sure that bayakazata to my parents so that I could go to great schools. So respect is a huge foundational principle I believe in. That's why I could never, say to anyone, like, do you know who I am?
Sure.
Why would people need to know who you are?
Okay.
We're all human.
Sure. You wanted to talk about menopause
I did.
and leadership. Can we unpack?
Okay. You know how a lot of people might think, and it pulls me back again into why the question you asked around how when women get to the C-suite, people deem them as horrible. Often those women are in their 40s, like in their 50s, right? So, true story, when menopause actually hits. Guys, sometimes it's like you're on fire from the inside.
Okay.
I don't know if someone has seen that image. There's a lady, she's bald, and like there's smoke coming off of her head.
Okay.
And she's sitting on bleachers watching like sports. But it's a real thing. You could be sitting in a room and the aircon is blasting, right?
Cold.
It's cold. Everyone is freezing. You're there with a fan. Now you change color even, You're burning. And now there's brain fog that actually kicks into touch in that whole process as well. So now you could be in the middle of a presentation you're doing. You've forgotten the line that was right in front of you, in that moment. I don't think that's necessarily discussed enough with regards to leadership and menopause and how it actually impacts your ability to show up. So the mood swings are real. You will cry now, something, you see a super lead, color yellow, just it's so beautiful. And then all of a sudden now why am I crying? Because I'm seeing yellow. But it's a life thing that you are actually going through, but nobody talks about it. Nobody actually, now I think more conversations are happening about menopause, because then you make an assumption that C-suite female leaders are horrible humans. Meanwhile, she's going through menopause. And then the perception of middle-aged women are just generally mean. It's not that they mean. Their bodies are going through transition. And once that is over the line, they come back to their nice selves. It's like having small children. Yeah. When they become teenagers, nobody recognizes who they are, in the house. Then that stage moves away. All of a sudden, when they're 18, 19, and they're 20, they become nice people again. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. So I think if your female boss is in her mid-40s, going to her 50s, it's not you, it's her. And there's a journey and a process that she's going through. So please try and grant grace, in that season. They're not being intentionally mean often. It's just life hitting curveballs left, right, and center. Can you imagine when you're sitting somewhere, man, you're wearing a jacket, then you start sweating out of nowhere, and then everyone is looking at you like you're crazy because the room is cold. So how are you burning up? And then you're asking, what is the temperature? Is this on heat? And it's not, because everyone is wearing jackets and coats, so you're the only one who's heating up. So I do think that all organizations should probably look into that. How do you provide support for women who are actually going through menopause? Yeah. They are not horrible people. They're going through changes.
Okay. And so let's say someone is going through that change, that phase, how might they manage the change somewhat better? if you were to advise someone?
Well, I'm not going through menopause yet. I'm just giving but when it does happen, I have amazing friends who are going through it, who have figured out the medical concoction of pills you need to take to actually help regulate it. So trying to fight through it, I don't think is advisable. What I've been advising anyway, for when I actually get to that point, there's really amazing doctors that we have in South Africa who we should or can go to, and gynecologists who will advise you. So if you're what I was told, and I'll give advice based on what I was told. If you start feeling like your moods are dipping and you're not sure, there's nothing you can explain, like you're crying out of nowhere because of yellow, maybe go see a doctor and see if you might be going through perimenopause or if you are in menopause, so that you can at least get medication that can help you like regulate and bring your hormones back into balance. So you don't show up as a crazy person when you're actually at work, because then you honestly feel like you're unwell because of how your moods dip and change. And then people will experience you in that way and won't want to be around you because they themselves don't even understand. So it's not like an illness or a sick, like women go through this. It's just part of the journey of life. And it's okay to get support, medical support, to actually help you navigate that journey as well.
As you know, I'm curious about this question that as we lead sometimes, whether it's life at home or at work, sometimes we get to those levels where it feels like we've reached our cap or a bit overwhelmed or somewhat burnt out sometimes. I wonder how you navigate those spaces.
When I did reach burnout, Manda, it was, let me call it like a life-altering moment, specifically when you have like small children, right? Where I used to believe, I don't believe that anymore, that it's important to show that you work hard, so like work long hours, outwork. If there's extra work and they give it to you, do it, even though you don't have capacity and your insides are screaming, no, you actually can't do it, but you take it because people are used to you being a hard worker, people are used to you grinding and putting in extra hours just so you can get stuff done. And on top of that, you always want to lead with excellence and land things with excellence. So you push yourself extremely hard to a point of depletion, not just of self, but you're also depriving your family of you, of actually meeting you whole. And in that process, because you are time poor, and you've decided you don't have time for anything else but work, so you're eating poorly. I was eating poorly. I'm not working out at all. So I look terrible, like on all aspects. Yes, it seems like I'm running, but your clothes become tighter, they don't fit anymore. Then I'm short, so you look like a cupcake because now you're round, and it just, I didn't like who I was seeing in the mirror. I didn't like the fact that I'm with my kids, but I'm not.
Sure.
Because I'm on my laptop, I'm on my phone, so I'm not present. Like in the moments that they need me to actually be present. I'm not asking the questions I should be asking them about how they are, right? So I had to actually make a direct shift of trying to be more intentional, because ultimately if I had a heart attack, buildings will still stand. The people who will come to your hospital is your family. It's not the office, and you'll be soon replaced in corporate spaces.
And when all of this was happening, outwardly you were super successful, probably getting awards as well.
Well, I'm not going to speak to that, Manda, but yes, outwardly I was successful, but in my personal life I was failing dismally. And I realized that was a problem. I wanted to succeed in my personal life too as a mother, because that's the most important role that you'll ever get. And you're right, my son was actually small then, right? And I could not walk up a flight of stairs, man. And I'm like, this is a problem, because boys are fast. And now I'm so unhealthy. Like, I'm breathing heavily, just going up like a few flights of stairs. I'm like, I have to change my life. I was late for a dinner, which was at Constitutional Hill. And we had parked at a very far away place. Now we're trying to run to get there. My goodness. Like, by the time I arrived, I felt like I was sweating through my makeup. And it was that day that I made a decision, and I actually started Pilates. Actually, I was like, let me find something I enjoy doing, and actually let me start changing how I actually eat, and maybe reduce how much wine I take in when I work these long hours. And just try and be able to keep up with my kids when they're running. But also, like, when I eat, to pause, like, ask my kids, questions, and the question I always ask, my daughter is, how's your heart?
Sure.
Right? That's an important question for me.
Sure.
And we ask each other, like, so how's your heart? How's your heart today?
And?
Like, are you happy? Like, have you had a good day? What are the things that have made your heart happy or have made your heart sad?
Sure.
What are some of those things? And she asked me the same. Like, so Mom, how was work and how's your heart today?
The kids come back, I'm like, hey, how was school? Good.
I still also get good sometimes, but I think, man, I've had to be intentional with it. I think in the beginning, she was probably more apprehensive because I was always working. So now that I'm like, we actually are having conversations, it's important to me to know what's going on at school. My daughter talks to me a lot more now than she ever used to. So I'll know what's happened on the playground, the gossip that's going on. That to me is everything, because then it means I'm rebuilding in the things that matter the most. And and my son giving me flowers like every day, my poor garden, but I'm grateful.
Lovely.
And just to hear like, I love you, Mom, like is
stunning.
priceless. So I have learned that although there's no such thing as work-life balance, nor do I believe there's work-life integration.
Okay.
We do have glass balls and plastic balls that we're handed in life. When a glass breaks, it shatters into pieces. You can never piece it back together the way that it was, because then those shards are actually going to cut you and you will absolutely bleed when that happens. But plastic balls will bounce back as you throw them down. So how I now live my life when it comes to work and when it actually comes to glass, it's very simple. There'll be moments in my life where work is a glass ball. Because there's something critical that needs to happen. And I can't allow that to fall. But I have an amazing ecosystem around me that will fall in, in the gap and actually close stuff out for me and help me with my children at home, so I can deal with my work glass balls. And then sometimes your children are glass balls and you can't allow them to drop. Yesterday, my son was a glass ball. He was not well. So I had to be home, and I sent a message to my boss to say, I'm so sorry, but like, Langa is not well, and I actually need to be home. Where ordinarily in the past I would have said, I'll dial in and work. I said I will put in leave.
Wow.
So that I am present. As opposed to this and that. Because if he wants, when babies are sick, right, they want you to hold them. Like, you must sleep with them, they sweat. They want to feel you. So I didn't want to deprive my son of that if that's what he needed to feel better, and he needed to be loved in that moment. So in that moment, he became my glass ball. So be mindful of the season you are in your personal life and your work life, so that you know what is plastic that can bounce back and nothing gets damaged or hurt today if I let it bounce. What's glass that I actually can't allow to break today? And that's how I actually navigate my life between work as well as my personal life.
Wow. So when you got to that place of burnout, you readjusted.
I had to.
For you personally.
Yes.
And then on the work front, how do you get re-energized again and sort of lead with the passion and vision?
On the work front, Manda, actually, I apologize to my team as a starting point. Oh, wow. And I'll explain what I mean by the apology. I worked through my maternity leave. Sure. Right? Remember, I worked through it.
So you gave birth and then you continue to work.
Although I'm on maternity leave, but there was urgency, there was this, that, and I'm on leave, but I'm still like I'm still approving things, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that, I'm still joining, like when we had migrations and the calls are happening at 2 a.m., I'm on those calls.
While in maternity leave?
Yes. So, and then what I was doing was horrible. I don't recommend it to anyone, not just to my team, but to my son, because I believe in breastfeeding. I always have. I think it's important, but the one thing I realized I couldn't do this time, because with my daughter, I would donate milk as well to the milk bank, because when babies are born prematurely, this is to anyone who's going to have a baby, please do this. When babies are born human milk is safest for their gut, and they actually are able to get out of NICU quicker. Okay. When they actually are drinking breast milk as opposed to cow's milk. This is for prem babies. So when I did antenatal classes when I was pregnant with my daughter, this is what they shared, to say, if you have the ability to donate milk, please donate milk. And I had a lot of milk, so I was able to do that. They actually come to you to collect the milk, and then they pasteurize it, and then they take it to hospitals.
Lovely.
So it's a powerful thing to actually do. In the season, because of my level of stress, I was unable to do that. My son only breastfed for 6 months, and then he was like, miss me, because you're always busy when I want to eat. This is how I interpret it. So that hurt as well, because I am of the view, and it happened with my daughter, that when babies are breastfed for longer, they are less sickly. So I was hoping to give him that shot of like not being, a baby that's like sick all the time. So I lambasted myself for that as well. And then I realized that the message I'm sending to my team, because I'm new in this job, they're going to assume that this is what I expect of them.
Sure.
To pull themselves away from their families, to show up for work. And they're missing out on things that are important. But I might be telling you, don't do that. But I'm doing it. So why would he not do it? Because then they're going to assume that if they don't do it, I'm going to hold it against them. When actually I genuinely meant it. When I said, please don't do that, this is not right. I knew fundamentally that it was wrong. Then I actually had to call myself into order to say, you have to stop. And it actually starts with you. So you actually have to switch off and actually go on maternity leave. So I think probably the very last month was the month that I stopped. And then again, you come back into the office cycle, you go back into your bad habits again of like working late, and now you still have a small child at home. Now your team is thinking, ooh, this was short-lived. This is actually how she is. She's still who she is. Then I had to recalibrate again when someone in my team was literally crying, and it was a wonderful human, a gentleman in my team, because like they were stressed, depressed, and they had no time for their families. And then I was like, this is my fault. I had to actually do some introspection, and I apologized. In that moment, I realized that the business has all of these demands, but it's my responsibility to navigate those demands. Like, we're working with human beings, they're not robots. And I've created an ecosystem where people think that we'll deliver by any means necessary. So I had to, undo that by actually then saying, the book of work needs to be readjusted because there's no capacity anymore. But being intentional with it in terms of, if I apologize, but I do nothing to fix the thing that actually got us here. One, it's not a real apology, and I'm not trying to create a culture that values you at a fully human level. So I changed how we're then receiving information. I made sure to prioritize people being home if they actually needed to be home with their families. So it's not even something where you have to ask me for permission. If you can't come in, you can't come in. I understand that. But I had to change that. So I put things in place to actually say on specific days, I'm working out. I'm going to Pilates. It was in my diary. So my PA put it in there to actually show that I'm changing my own habits. So there'll be days when I arrive at 9, where I'm not here at 7. But you have to live and embody that for people to actually believe you. Because in the beginning, they're going to think it's a gimmick. But it really wasn't a gimmick for me. So I was then prioritizing my health. I started eating differently. I started being intentional with saying, I'm going to leave early because my daughter has this, or I need to do this, or I want to be home to cook for this period of time, and then I'll dial in at a different time after I'm done with this. But I was verbalizing those things to give them permission to be able to do that as well. But I absolutely had to apologize, and I apologized to them for how I showed up in the beginning. And I think to this day, I have to thank my team, because had it not been for those lessons, I would not be the mom that I am right now if it wasn't for that.
And I'm curious, some of us who love to work long hours, when it's like, let's say it's 7 p.m. and you feel the urge to want to work, and you're trying to kind of be disciplined, how do you deal with that guilt, if any?
Langa libalele puts me into reality fast. My son is 4, because he'll say, Mom, and I'll hear, and you're like, you give that because you're here or whatever, and then you'll hear Mama, but my son will eventually say, Mom, I'm talking to you.
Sure.
Wait, now look at me, like trying to get between you and your phone. And I think, again, when that happened, it jolted me into, okay, it's his time.
Okay.
He has the right to say to me, he's talking to me. And there's this thing that he wants to show me. He's about to wind down to go to bed. I have to help him sleep. He's asking me to actually help him. So once they are genuinely quiet and sleeping and settled, then I will answer emails, get on my laptop, and do what I actually need to do. You see, having kids older, will regulate you fast, because then you become a different mom than you were when you were actually, I had my daughter when I was 30. I think my son, I was 37. So it's just a different dynamic, like altogether. So now they regulate me, or if Nkanyasi needs to read to me, I'm very conscious to try to leave my phone alone, so she can see me not looking at it, that I'm actually giving her the attention she requires for what she actually needs. So there is temptation. I'm not saying I don't work at night. I do. I actually respond now a lot on emails from like 9, where I can actually then catch up with the rest of the day after they are settled and they are actually then sleeping. Then I can actually catch up with what I need to do.
Okay. So, wow. Time.
Time is gone. I'm also looking like very late for my next thing, but we move. I'll apologize.
Let me find a way of bringing it.
Going.
Yeah, let me find a way of pulling it back. Curious.
Yes.
Technology leaders take a lot of heat.
We do.
How do you take that heat, absorb it, and not make it, what's the word, and still show up energized, thriving, etc.?
To be fair, man, I think leaders take a lot of heat. You know, like whether you're in the front line and your numbers are not numbering, you know, from a sales perspective, you take heat. The burden of responsibility when you choose it means that it's not always going to be easy, you know, especially when things are hard. Then you have to navigate whatever those hard hits are, but you have to have an outlet of how you then release tension from your system, so you don't carry it with you. So I have learned from other leaders that I've had the pleasure to work with for over the years that the thing is the thing, the cup is the cup.
Yeah.
Deal the cup. Okay. Once you've dealt the cup in this moment, when you leave that door, there's something different that you actually need to navigate. I cannot take the tension that existed from this cup and move it into the next room, because there are people in my next meeting, in that room, who expect me to show up as if they are the most important meeting for my day, because it is. For them, there's an issue that they need to engage and deal with you. If I bring the tension from here into that room, is it fair on the people I need to deal? Because in that room as well, there's another complex issue that I need to navigate and deal. So if I'm not going to leave the cup here and come back to it when I need to deal it, the next cup I'm going to find, the volatility that I'm taking here and I'm taking into there, that cup probably doesn't require volatility. It probably requires patience to understand what it is. Because can you imagine moving, let's assume I'm moving from a volatile work issue over here. Next door, there's someone who's just lost their husband, who's come to tell me that they've lost their husband. I take volatility into what requires softness and empathy for a colleague, and actually then trying to understand supportive logistics around how do I help this individual who's just gotten a call that's about to change their lives. You cannot operate in the same way in the spaces that you actually move and govern. That's part of being a leader. Leadership is about being able to deal with complexity. Executives must deal with complexity. So you also need to be able to regulate your own emotions as you actually lead people. You can't go bleeding on
From
people.
To the,
you cannot, which is why it's so important to have both IQ and EQ, and your emotional quotient becomes extremely important. And over and above that, therapy.
Right.
I believe in therapy. I think a lot of us should be in therapy. You cannot carry all of this and assume that you can fix yourself, like you have answers for everything. It's okay to go to a third party, someone who you can sit on their couch and offload, where you don't have other safe spaces to offload, whether it's at home or whether it's at work. And you believe you actually can't be vulnerable. Because there's certain spaces you can't be vulnerable. I can't get into a difficult meeting, a negotiation, I start crying. You know, people, she's a woman, and I can't, you know. You will not see that side of me. What you will see in a negotiation is a corporate beast, because I am. And then we move. After that, we'll deal with whatever it is that we need to deal with. But in that space, I can be vulnerable. I can actually, with therapy, I can be vulnerable and I can say, this is hard. And then also, it's okay to have an executive coach too.
Oh, good.
To help you deal with stuff at work which are hard. We don't know everything. I certainly don't know everything. So I do have an executive coach.
Lovely.
And I have a therapist.
Excellent.
I have both, because I've realized the importance of having outlets.
Sure.
So that I'm not bleeding on my family and I'm not bleeding on people at work.
Oh, beautiful. This is a great place to pause this conversation because it's going to get longer. So we ask our guests these last two questions. One, to give our listeners a challenge, and two, to recommend a book as we close.
So it's Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner.
Yes. I've seen that.
And it's about, listen, I think it's leadership principles for men can actually apply those as well. The things you think will actually help you in your career will not.
Sure.
So the plight of likability, which a lot of females have, of wanting to be liked. So I'm going to do things to make sure that I'm not a person who's not likable where I work. Likability does not guarantee that you're actually going to be able to grow your career.
Sure.
Sometimes working hard makes your boss look good, but when your boss wants to keep you there because you make them look good, your progression is not going to necessarily happen. So please don't think that your hard work alone is going to get you promoted. It will not. There has to be other avenues that you actually have to actually grow yourself within corporate. Have a strategy for your life and have a strategy for your career. That book helps you a lot with regards to how to navigate that.
Oh, Nomonde, this is episode 1 with you, right? Because
we're going to have
1.1. Yeah, 2.1.
Well, this is 2.2. We're trying this again.
we need to have you back here again.
With pleasure. Manda wants to start a dating channel, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to explore how he can actually do that. He wants to get insights into female executives and what they expect out there. So I look forward to that conversation. It'll be very different. So the love doctor, ladies and gentlemen. Manda, thank you so much for the privilege of your time and for the invitation. I've had a great time.
It's been awesome. You're back here again. Please, let's make it happen. Thank you
so much.
We went